morning. It's very loud. It's very early. I'm going to class. That's about it. So I'm out of class now. I have to go to Waterstones, which is a bookstore, and get a book that I need to have read by the end of the semester, but apparently it's a long one. And it's one that I'm going to have to do a presentation sort of thing on. So I need to have it, you know, down pat pretty well. So I'm going to go get that. One thing that I find ridiculous is the cars in London, especially in Kensington and Chelsea, because it's sort of the rich neighborhood. Like, that's a Porsche SUV, it's a Mercedes, and that's a BMW, just lined up. Got my books, walking through Green Park right now. I think I'm going to go to St. James Park and sit out and read in the park, because I need to stay in London. Well, I guess I don't have to, but I have a walking tour tonight of the London Ghost Tour. So, and that's at 6:30, and it's just after, it's like 1:30 now. So I figure I can just hang out here instead of going all the way back and coming all the way back into the city later. Just hang out in the city and spend a day at the park. So, probably still really windy, but now I'm sitting in St. James Park. Over there's the water that I was walking by yesterday. On the other side is where I was walking. So, yeah, I'm gonna start reading and then just kill some time. It's nice just to relax. So, I came to St. Paul's because that's where I'm supposed to meet for the tour. But I went into Starbucks and checked the upload and it didn't actually upload. So now I'm going back to Ealing to fix the upload. Hopefully I can get it done by 5. It's almost 3 now, so I have like 2 hours. So that should be okay. If not, I'll fight with it when I get back home. So drug deaths that happened while trying to save someone else. It's called Postman's Work.
It was set up by monks from Chartres in France, and it was a Carthusian monastery. And basically it was set up here to house monks whose job it was to pray for the souls of the dead who died in the 1348 Black Death. And so they were all those people who died. There's something like 50,000 people buried under this garden. And the Museum of London is very keen to excavate it. But there's this whole thing about, well, you shouldn't really touch Black Death graves for 600, 700 years because the bacillus could still be active. So these guys lived in cells on their own, and they prayed on their own. They were only allowed out on Sundays. And you all heard of Henry VIII, the king who liked to chop and change. He shut down the monasteries, basically because he kicked out the Pope, and he suddenly realised, hey, if the Pope doesn't control the church in England, that means I do. That means I own all church property. So all you monks and you nuns, just take a hike. So this was one of the most strictest of the Catholic religious orders, and the guy who ran it, Prior John Houghton, when the King's officers turned up here saying, right, all you monks, take a hike, Prior Houghton said, just a minute, we can talk this over. So they just grabbed him, and two of his lieutenants, they took him up to where Marble Arches, Tyburn, and he was hung, drawn and quartered. And they brought back an arm, which they hammered over the doorway here as a warning to the other brothers who are in here. And the other brothers are all in there quaking, going, what are we going to do? We're going to surrender to the king, or we're going to keep the faith and keep this as a Catholic monastery. And as they're praying desperately in the chapel, suddenly a holy wind stirs all the candles up, and the candles go blaringly glare. And they think, a sign from heaven. So yeah, King Henry rotates. King Henry says, yeah, fine. Takes them all, takes them up to Newgate Prison, chucks them in a tiny little cell where you can't even, little ease cell they call it. You can't lie down, you can't stand up, you can't crouch. So you're all standing there, and of the 16, one survived. that. So Henry gets it anyway, and sells it to Thomas Howard, who's the Duke of Norfolk, who also goes to the block because he's found guilty of trying to marry Mary Queen of Scots, Catholic, later on. In the end, dear old Thomas Sutton buys the buildings in 1611 and opens it up as a school for 80 84 local children. And that becomes Chava House, which is one of our famous public schools, one of the old public schools, which is now down in Horsham, moved out in the 1890s. But Baden Powell, who started the Boy Scouts movement, was an old boy here.
Oh, he's right, you can smell the blood. Oh man. These are the original meat markets, I guess, for like central London, and he said you can smell the blood, and you definitely can. It smells like crap in here. It's horrible. It's really pretty though. But it stinks. It's really creepy sort of graveyard.
The other thing they've got in there, which is kind of fun, but is an open stone coffin laid in the floor in the cloister. And if you were so poor you couldn't afford a coffin, what they do is they lie your body in that, and it's got draining holes drilled in it, and they leave you alone for about 10 years until you've completely decomposed and drained off. And then they take the bones out and put the bones in the ossuary where all the bone heap was. And then they use it for the next person. So it's lying there on the floor, and all these tourists go in there saying, please, 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 can I lie in it? Please, please, please. They won't. Bloody Mary, we all know about Bloody Mary, Mary Tudor, after Henry VIII. She was the Catholic daughter, and she had huge issues because her mother, Catherine of Aragon, had been divorced and chucked off into a monastery. She herself had been declared a bastard, and so when Henry died, his only son, Edward VI, lasted for about 6 years. He had TB and he died, and the Protestants who had taken over then were freaking out, going, what are we going to do now? Because the next in line is Mary Tudor, a Catholic. And so they got Lady Jane Grey as a puppet princess, but the London mob weren't buying it because they'd always thought that Catherine of Aragon and Mary Tudor had been badly done by. And so when Mary marched into London, the mob go, yay! We've got a proper queen again. But Mary, of course, had this campaign to wrench the country back to Catholicism. So she burns at the stake 300 Protestant martyrs over the 4 years of her reign until she's stricken with ovarian cancer, and by then she's not much missed really. But most of the burnings happened here. So you can see here, this was put up to commemorate at least 3, John Rogers, John Bradford, and John Philpott and others, servants of God, suffered death by fire on this spot. And the story is that Mary would not allow them to use green wood for the fire because the smoke would perhaps knock out the victims before they actually felt the full rigour of the flames. And the idea is you burn in this one so you don't burn in the next, which is great logic really. So this became highly unpopular in the end, and so they had to do the burnings. In fact, where the Olympic Park is, there was another fake.
I ran into Justin at the bus station. I'm going back to fight with the upload again because even though I did this earlier, it still didn't go up, and it's pissing me off, like beyond all belief. This is like the second time I've had to do this today now, so yeah. The ghost tour thing was really cool though. I guess it's not any more awkward than just talking to a camera as I walk down the road though, because that's kind of awkward. Like people are like, what is that guy doing? But yeah, so, I don't know, I'm gonna go fight with the upload now, so. That's it for today guys. I'm gonna go to bed, so good night.